Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts on strings.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. Well, we talked about JoJo's on the previous episode, but the truly bizarre adventure awaits us today in the form of Karakuri Circus, a story about an orphan boy, a martial artist, and a circus lady fighting an ensemble of mechanical puppets. After that, we will go back to the beginning, nay, the origin of the Gundam Universal Century timeline, and finally discover the full backstory of one of the most charismatic figures in that franchise and the villain of the very first Gundam series, Char Aznable. Sounds like a wild ride, so strap in, we'll be right back. 11-year-old Masaru Saiga inherits an enormous fortune after the death of his father. These vast riches come with a plethora of problems, however, as Masaru now is targeted by a bunch of kidnappers and killers. Neither do his pursuers seem to be your run-of-the-mill kind of criminals, but instead gifted puppeteers who command an army of deadly wooden/mechanical dolls. Trying to escape their grasp, Masaru runs right into the arms of martial artist Narumi Kato. Narumi immediately takes it upon himself to protect young Masaru from the people trying to abduct him, but quickly has to admit that he alone is no match for the fighting prowess of the puppets. All seems lost when suddenly a young circus artist calling herself Shirogane appears on the scene, unleashes her own powerful puppet named Arlequin, and destroys the remaining attackers. Now, Masaru, Shirogane, and Narumi have to work together to find out who painted the target on Masaru's back to stop the relentless attacks on his life. But this is only the first step in a globe-spanning adventure, and the dark forces pulling the strings behind the scenes threaten to tear this makeshift family apart and even to destroy the entire world. Karakuri Circus is a manga series written by Kazuhiro Fujita, and it ran from 1997 to 2006, and it counts 43 volumes. I've mentioned Fujita on our show before, as he is the creator of Ushio&tora, a manga which recently got a new anime adaptation that I reviewed both seasons of on our show, and that is now one of my favorite shonen action series ever. And the anime of Karakuri Circus shares another commonality with Ushio&tora, because one of the animation studios that did the new adaptation of that also did the adaptation of Karakuri, and that is Studio Voln. The other studio involved with Ushio&tora was MAPPA, though I don't know how much of the actual production each studio was responsible for on that project. But Karakuri was handled by just Studio Voln, who among other things also worked on an animated Garo movie, Idle Incidents, and did the animation production on I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which despite its weird-ass name seems to be a pretty great movie, which I still need to watch.
I had heard good things about it.
Yeah, me too. I want to see it. Now, Karakuri Circus looks mostly good. Some of the action scenes look even great, especially some of the martial arts fights that Narumi is involved in. Some pretty cool hand-to-hand choreography there. There are definitely some shortcuts taken here and there, but nothing too noticeable in my opinion. There are some designs in this show that are pretty, I don't know, they feel like a bit slapdash, like I don't know, the side characters in a Naruto filler arc or something. Just like
you're not wrong.
No, just like in that show, what could be a weird contemporary version of a ninja? I'll just draw this shit. And this is like, what could be a weird puppet/circus themed horror thing? Yeah, I'll just draw this. And not all of them feel like they were just ripped from the manga, but they had to come up with some designs on the go, and it's like, yeah. But some of the designs are pretty damn cool and scary and creepy, and some inventive, weaponry here on all the puppets, and, fighting techniques and all that stuff. It's pretty varied and pretty colorful designs overall, which matches pretty neatly with the circus themes, which, can be a very colorful affair. We also got the same director helming this series as for Ushio&tora, which is Satoshi Nishimura, who also directed Trigun and Hajime no Ippo. Think all seasons of it? Yes, I think all 3 seasons of it. And he did a bunch of storyboard work on other shows. So he definitely knows his way around action stuff, which is noticeable, definitely. And there are also, at least in terms of staging, what could be some very powerful, well-directed emotional moments in this show. Problem is, these moments rarely connect for mostly entirely different reasons, and we'll get to that in a few moments. The soundtrack is pretty damn great, which is no surprise, because it was composed by one of our golden boys, Yuki Hayashi. We have mentioned him many times before: Death Parade, Haikyuu, the Gundam Build series, My Hero Academia. If you want riveting, engaging rock/orchestral battle hymns and music underlining big emotional moments perfectly, Hayashi is your guy. The dude never disappoints, in my opinion. And just like Kevin Penkin's soundtrack for Shield Hero, Hayashi's soundtrack for Karakuri Circus is probably the only thing I can wholeheartedly recommend about this show. Although I'm also really fond of the first OP by Bumpy Chicken. That is a good-ass song. Too good for this show, really. I appreciate... Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I appreciate that they put that, or a different version of that as the ending in the last third of the show. That at least got me going when things got really rough.
I kind of like the second OP as well, to be honest.
Yeah, that's neat as well.
I also just kind of like Kanabun a lot.
True.
So I might be biased.
Yeah, no, Kanabun is great as well. But, favorites. And I definitely like the first one the most. But yeah, let's not longer beat around the bush here. Karakuri Circus is a bad show. Which might surprise the people who listened to the sneak peek where we lauded the first 1 or 2 episodes of it. Because if you remember...
it had such a strong start.
Yeah, if you remember, John and I, we were pretty impressed with what we saw in the beginning of the series. Like, the first episode just gets you right in there, right in the action. You got, like, a weird mystery, what's with the fucking puppets, and what is Masaru's deal, and Narumi's super cool when he first appears on the scene. He's like this guy also working for a circus at that point, I think, because he wants to make children laugh, because he is inflicted by this disease called Zonopha, which is a made-up disease, just to make sure to don't run off and try to look it up on Wikipedia. It's a made-up thing just for this show, which is, if you're inflicted by it, you have problems to breathe, I think. If you're uncomfortable or nervous or something, or in a bad situation or whatever. And the only cure of that is laughter. And yeah, Narumi is also inflicted by that, and the only way he can, overcome that is make children laugh, and then that eases the breathing problems and everything that he has through the infliction by the Sonova syndrome, or whatever that disease is called. Yeah. So, Narumi is super cool, and then we get a kick-ass introduction of Shirogane, who is just this fucking badass... looks like a trapeze artist with this weird yellow-red polka dot uniform, and then just fucking dismantles one of those weird wooden cyborgs that attack Masaru and Narumi. And it's just this fucking crazy action ride with a train crash and everything. A train wreck in the beginning of the show. Maybe we should have looked closer at that. It's...
a prophecy of things to come.
Yes.
Little did we know.
Little did we know. Oh my god. Yeah. No, it was a great first 2 episodes we saw at that point. It was like, man, we're all in. This is done by... I was like, hey, this is done by one of the studios behind ushio&tora. I love ushio&tora. This is the same author that did that wrote that manga. That this can only be fantastic, is what I thought. So what happened? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. This is an incredibly rushed, just in general, very badly paced adaptation of its original manga that apparently cut out about half of the source material story and character content. For some reason, someone decided that they should try to squeeze 43 volumes of manga into a 36-episode anime series. And don't get me wrong, this series is finished after episode 36. There's no room really for continuation or anything. This is wrapping up. This gets a conclusion, not a very satisfying one, but this is over. 43 volumes of manga, 36 episodes of anime. Just for context, JoJo's Adventure Stardust Crusaders has like 17 volumes of manga material, and the anime adaptation had 48 episodes. And that show had really good pacing, pretty much. So you can imagine how bad the pacing Karakuri Circus is. And this is a lot of fights mostly, so I guess they're comparable. I mean, they're big story bits too, but still. So, yeah, this is... Who thought this was a good idea? I don't know. But
I decided crunching down 425 chapters is a good idea.
Yeah. But it's not too noticeable from the get-go. So let's try to get through the story here. Also, we usually don't go full spoilers with our single series reviews. But since I think this is a bad show that you shouldn't watch, and it's still like 36 episodes, that's still a lot. I feel like I shouldn't force you to find out for yourselves why it's bad, and will instead try to make sense of the madness that is the plot of this series, which will not be easy, believe me.
Well, I mean, the last third, you're on your own. I dropped out at like episode 20.
Again, John is the smarter of us, as we have established before. He didn't watch Shield Hero, and he only watched...
You get to... Guess what, though? That means you get to watch seasons 2 and 3 of Shield Hero.
1, 2, 3, fuck that!
No, you are bound by blood to it the way I am to Sword Art.
Nope. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen at all. Anyway, yeah, let's get into it. Karakuri Circus already moves pretty fast in the beginning, but it's not too noticeable. It just feels like, okay, we're moving the story along pretty quickly, and that at a nice brisk pace. That could be cool. And yeah, we get the introduction of all the main characters, and then pretty quickly Masaru gets abducted by the people behind the first threat, kinda, and gets abducted to a castle, which I think was it his uncle that was behind this? You have to excuse us, some of the plot details from the beginning just get swept up by the fucking nonsense that happens later. So I don't really remember how the guy who abducted him was related to him. I think he was related in a way and was after his money.
Zenji was his uncle.
Yeah. So he gets abducted by his uncle, I think, because he is after his wealth or something and just wants to use Masaru for it. And Narumi and Shirogane team up, although they're kind of rubbing against each other there in the beginning. They don't like each other, or, well, Shirogane doesn't like Narumi. Narumi wants to get friendly, I think, with Shirogane, but, she wants to protect Masaru on her own. She can't deal with that big oaf, Narumi, because he's a very blunt person. And, yeah, so they have to learn to work together, initially live together and everything. And that's pretty neat. That's all fun, good fun. And then they have basically worked together to free Masaru from the claws of his uncle and fight off all the kidnappers and the killers, because there are two teams. The killers for a wholly different reason, as we learn later after Masaru. And they have to fight pretty much all of them. They later befriend one of the guys who becomes a recurring side character from the killer side of things, because Masaru decides, hey, I have this shit ton of money. If you want to work for me instead, I'm cool with that. And yeah, this is also at the point where we realize that Masaru is the best character in this show, just in general. And that pretty much stays like that until the end, because he is like, he goes from being this like very scared and terrified kid from being a total badass in the course of a couple of episodes.
Masaru's resolve in his character arc are like, damn, this kid ain't gonna take your shit anymore. He's great. He's the best part.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, stays until the end, but especially in that first part, it's that because that's his big turnaround. It's like he's really, on the run all the time, doesn't know how to fight back and everything. And then he just decides to become strong and be like Narumi, because, Narumi is his inspiration and everything, and teaches him how to smile and whatever. It's pretty cool. It's relatively basic shonen stuff, but it's executed very well, and Masaru is just a cool character and very likable. And you're like, yeah, okay, this is good stuff. Like, I can't wait to see where this goes. And then, they fight at the fucking castle, and then shit goes down, everything, the castle just gets engulfed by flames and shit, and yeah, Masaru and Narumi are trapped. then we get like the first big twist, what the fuck moment, which I'm gonna spoil for you now, so just be aware of that. And Masaru just kind of wakes up in the rubble of the burnt down castle, and then the only thing left of Narumi is an arm. And that was one of the strongest moments in the show because it was so fucking weird. Him sitting there and then having this strong arm around him. He's like, oh my god, oh thank god Narumi is still here. And he just looks around, it's just the arms. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a good moment.
Yeah, it's a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure moment. It's so outlandish. It should be funny in a way because the imagery is so fucking weird, but it's staged so strongly, and the voice actor of Masaru is so great, and that with just this fucking gut-wrenching scream and everything. It's fantastic. Like, this is a really good scene, and again, I was all in at that point. I was like, man, this show is gonna be so great. And then the problems start.
Then the rest of the show happens.
Yeah. Then the rest of the show happens. Okay. So I don't know how this plays. I think the next thing that happens is Masaru and Shirogane just go off and no, they don't form a circus.
They join a circus.
They join a circus, the Nakamachi Circus.
This much I remember.
Yes, which is like one father and his two boys who do like performances. He's kind of the ringmaster type, and they are like acrobats, I think. Yeah, and later they are joined by the knife thrower Vilma, who's also a fantastic character. Well,
for the most part,
she has the potential to be a fantastic character. We'll get to what the problem is with that, and also Lise, who's a beast tamer, like a tamer of wild animals, though she has kind of lost her touch because, was it her sister or her brother that got attacked by a lion and eaten or something like that?
That I don't remember.
Bad shit happened, and that's why she can't really control animals anymore. Doesn't believe in her abilities anymore. And we get this team formed together, and it's like, okay, this cool new chapter. Okay, let's see where this goes. Cut! We won't see these characters anymore for 20 episodes or something. And we switch over to Narumi, who, of course, is still alive. That, I mean, I was shocked there for a moment. I was willing to believe for a moment that he would actually die, that actually the author of the manga had the chutzpah to kill him. Because I think if there is a prominent character death in ushio&tora, I think, that I didn't expect, if I remember correctly. So that could have been. But I was more leaning towards the side of, he's still alive, especially if you only see his arm.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a commitment to kill off your characters. And like in any story, when it's like, oh, guess what? They're still alive. Or, hey, guess what? They can come back. You got to stop cheapening death like that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it wouldn't have been so problematic if we spent more time away from him. But it's like only 2 episodes or something until we see that he's actually alive. They should have like rested for a bit and made us believe that he's actually dead. And in the manga, apparently they do. Like in the manga at this point, if I'm not mistaken, I read up on it a bit, but I didn't read through the actual manga. This is where a whole different arc begins. Where we got a whole arc that is only focusing on Masaru, on Shirogane, and the circus, and the people of the Nakamachi Circus. And all of these characters get well established, and each of them gets well developed, and each of them gets a little arc and everything. We get none of that in the anime. Nothing. We get like 2 episodes of introduction of these characters, like only the barest explanation of who they are, and then we switch back to Narumi's side of things. And if the anime took like maybe the rest of of the first season or, the rest of the runtime of the episode and adapted that arc, things could have gone completely differently. And, then we get a second series and suddenly, or let's say make the cliffhanger at the end of the first 36 episodes. We see the last episode, the finale, and we see like a shadow lying on a fucking gurney or something. And it's just the outline But, if you remember Narumi, you know what he looks like. It's like, holy shit, is that Narumi? He's still alive? What the fuck? Because at this point, if the story had just focused for 20-something episodes, 26 episodes on the other characters, you would be willing to believe that that they actually killed off Narumi. That he was just there to be like the guy who kicked off this development of Masaru, this turn for Masaru where he becomes a strong character, and that was his role in this story. And then you make him come back, and it's like, holy shit, you could have done that. And they didn't do that. So we move over to Narumi's side, and he got rescued by another Shirogane. Because as it turns out, Shirogane is not a name, it's a title. And it's a group of people who are immortal, quote unquote. This is the definition of immortal in this show is kind of loose, because they drank from this weird stuff called aqua vitae, which is basically an elixir of life or something, and it gives them longer life and makes them sustain a lot of damage, but they're not technically invulnerable or immortal. Like, they age differently, and like I said, they can take a lot more damage before they die, but they can be harmed and they can die, so they're not really immortal. I mean, maybe like the Highlander if they hurt a specific way, but even in that, the show is kind of a bit foggy about the whole mechanics of the thing. Some of them get, fucking blasted to bits, stabbed over and over, and they're just fine, and some of them get stabbed once into the fucking side, and then suddenly they just petrify, like become this weird crystal moves all over their body. They like crystallize and then they die. Look like glass and shatter, and it is never made really clear how much damage and what damage they really have to take for that to happen. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, the Shirogane are an organization who have made it their purpose to fight the automata, which are autonomous dolls or puppets that are not controlled by puppeteers or anything, but are basically robots with minds of their own and everything, who follow a mysterious, or the commands of at this point, mysterious figure in the background. And the Shirogane's purpose is to defeat these automatas and eventually destroy their master. And yeah, Narumi got saved by a guy who's one of those Shirogane, also one of the best characters in the show, because he's one of the few well-developed characters in the show, or at all developed characters in the show. And then he gets turned into Shirogane as well, but he is not. Most of them control puppets for themselves. They're all like our Shirogane, who later turns out her real name is Eleanor. They all control puppets themselves and just fight the automatas with that. Yeah, and Narumi becomes one of them, doesn't control a puppet, but instead beats the automatas just with badass martial arts, which I'm all for. He does that very effectively. Like, one of the coolest scenes is when just a bunch of automata attack the building that he is recovering in, and that are a bunch of kids that are suffering from the Sonofa syndrome are also residing at. And then he just kicks their fucking ass, just destroys all these automata, and it's a sight to behold. It's one of the most well animated scene in this show, one of the best looking things in the show, just in terms of choreography and fluid action animation. It's fantastic. I wish the show had more of that. And there are some more shorter scenes here and there sprinkled in between, but sprinkled throughout the show, but not to that level of awesomeness. So yeah, that's great. Basically, the next, I don't know how many episodes. I think up to episode 13 or something. This is basically about Narumi finding out, like going on a quest, assembling some companions, and then finding out what's the background behind the automata and Sonofa and the Sonofa syndrome and everything, and then fighting the four main bad guys, automata, and trying to destroy their master. And this is where the show gets really bad because
at this point it just turns into a fucking mess, like, instantly.
Yeah. This is like where we fucking jump between multiple locations in each episode. a bunch of characters get introduced and thrown away in the same episode, but the show frames it like we should really care about these characters, which makes no fucking sense. Like we meet a guy like for 2 minutes and then he dies and it's like this super dramatic scene and oh my god, some guy died who I don't even remember his name. Who was that? We spent like a few minutes with that dude. Who gives a shit? And that happens so many times. And it feels like the show doesn't know that we can't care. We can't care about these characters. We have barely met them. It's maybe most noticeable in this part of the story, but it happens throughout the rest of the show. A lot of characters later in the show are killed, and pretty much all of our bigger side characters are killed. And we rarely care about any of them because we have not spent any time with them. For the circus people, is because like, hey, that whole fucking arc got cut out of the anime. And for the other characters, like, I don't even know if they were in the manga or, you know, if they were just invented for the anime or whatever, but their screen time is just way too low to care. And yeah, so I don't want to let this get too extensive, but to explain why this plot is so fucking ludicrous, I have to get into the backstory of the Sonova syndrome thing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, as it turns out, I think, if I'm not mistaken, so the origin of all of this is like two brothers who lived a bunch of centuries ago, something, because Shiroganes are immortal, and that's where that whole thing began. So this is a century-spanning whatever story. Two brothers were basically inventors, and they invented like mechanical puppet theaters and everything. That's what it was. And they come across a lady called Francine, and both kind of fall in love with her. And she picks the older brother, whose name is Yin. And the younger brother, Jin, kind of doesn't take that too well.
Kind of goes off the deep end?
Oh, yeah. Shit, like, goes from, hey, I love my brother, la la la, goes immediately in one scene to the next, I fucking hate you, she is mine, just fucking entitled man, baby. Goes super crazy. And, abducts Francine. Yin goes after them and tries to find him, doesn't find them for years, and then finds them in a village, or at least Francine, and bad things happen. She dies, and I don't know. In the end, Jin holds him responsible for it, but, you know, he's a real asshole, of course. He tries to bring her back and creates this weird automata version of her, but she never laughs for him, so he goes even crazier. Asks the people of the village to make her laugh. They, of course, can't. She's a machine. She doesn't know how to laugh. And because he's so angry at them for not being able to do that, he like creates the Sonova thing, which later turns out is just nanomachines. I'm not kidding.
What?
I'm not kidding. Nanomachines, son.
Wow. Did not get to that part, so holy shit.
Yeah, it's nanomachines who transport this virus. And
thank you for nanomachines, Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. So yeah, he creates those apparently with old ass tech for some reason, basically transmits that virus to the people, so that when they can't make other people laugh, or Francine laugh, or automaton Francine laugh in that case, they suffer for it. And yeah, I guess that's how it works. I might be missing some details, but this is so dumb that I don't feel too bad about it. That's basically the gist of it. And then that's not where it ends, because as we later learn, of course, the automaton Francine survives and got these loyal puppets around her that try to make her laugh, and to make her laugh, they kill a bunch of people because they think that will bring her joy. It's all very convoluted and dumb. And basically, the first third of the show is about Narumi and the rest, and the people he meets, and that get disposed of in a matter of seconds. to fight her and her minions, and he does. And yeah, then it turns out when they finally beat all the minions, Denier Conquistadors, I don't even remember what they were called.
Just call him the Steno, like, you know, that goddamn trope that's in every anime and every game.
Yeah, just for just henchmen basically who are
the four heavenly kings.
Yeah. So when they beat it turns out no, this Francine is just a copy created by the first Francine automaton, which has gone off somewhere, which apparently her fucking minions henchmen didn't notice. It's like, okay, we're gonna continue with this nonsense. All right.
How convenient.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yeah. Also important in this arc, one of the characters that gets introduced in a few minutes and disposed of after that, after a couple of minutes, is a guy called Faceless, who is introduced as the leader of the Shirogane organization. Yeah, he's introduced and then sacrifices himself, and there's this heart-wrenching moment where he talks about his family or something, and and then he dies, and that seems to be it. And we got back to that later. Just wanted to mention him here. So then after all that happens, we get like this very weird quick interlude. So Narumi learns that Eleanor / the Shirogane we meet in the beginning is like a reincarnation of the original Francine, and he goes apeshit and just confronts her in a super weird scene. It's like, this is all your fault, and then disappears again, which was it was one of the most noticeable moments of, I think we're missing some plot here. Just he appears in front of her after not seeing her for like forever, and it's like, hey, you are blah blah blah. Where's the stone that turns every water into this immortal elixir, like this aqua vitae? And she's like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about, but I'm super glad to see you. Holy shit, I love you, whatever. And he's like, no, I hate you now, and you're the reincarnation of that bad lady. It wasn't really bad, but blah. But so he goes crazy, whatever, and then he goes away, and we won't see him for a while, because of course. And we switch back to Masaru, who's going back to the ruins of the castle. I don't know what he's trying to find out at this point. I think he's trying to find out the background of his father or whatever. I don't remember exactly what draws in there. I don't know exactly what happens next, but it turns out Masaru apparently was supposed to be a new body for his father, because his father is an asshole.
Yes.
Who just, we kind of knew this from the beginning, because it was already established at some point that Masaru was, an orphan, but his father just had him by accident, and, he grew up without him, only with his mother for a wife, and only when his mother died, he got, taken in by his father, but then he also didn't take care of him. He instead gave him to his grandfather, who was the real parental person for Masaru, until his grandfather died, and his father died as well. And then, it turns out his father only wanted Tuki Masaru to have a new body to download himself into with a weird machinery. It gets even crazier, people, because at this point, everyone believes that Masaru was already taken over by his asshole father.
Oh my god!
And it's like, hey, oh shit, you are. I forgot what his father's name was.
Sadayoshi.
Yeah, I think it was Sadayoshi. Yeah, Sadayoshi was his father, right? And everyone is like, you have been taken over by this asshole Sadayoshi, who at this point we know barely anything about. And it's his grandfather, who apparently is still alive, but only a torso in this weird liquid that keeps him alive. And then Guy appears on the scene as well, and all of them believe that he has already been taken over by Sadayoshi.
And then they forced another fucking flashback on Masaru, and I was just like, this needs to stop.
And this is where we learn the whole backstory of this shebang, the missing pieces, so to speak. And this is where it gets really, really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out
We spent 4 episodes on this story.
Yeah, so
4 episodes.
I'll try to get this into some kind of timeline and make sense of it. So Masaru's grandfather was a kid who learned to be a doctor under Yin, the guy who was one of the brothers, right? Who was involved with the original Francine and everything, and who basically created the puppets for the Shirogane, and also drank of the aqua vitae and stuff like that, and was kind of immortal and everything. I think, was he? Whatever. But
No, that all sounds about right.
Yeah, he kind of created the Order of the Shirogane. And so he became a doctor, he learned from him, and then he ran into one of the Shirogane, I think, who was the daughter of Lucille, which is another important character in the beginning, who's also a member of the Shirogane organization, this old lady who has been immortal forever. And I think Lucille, I don't know if she was the sister of Francine, or somehow related to her. I think she was somehow related to her. And that's why the lady that Masaru's grandfather, Shoji, got involved in, looked very much like Francine as well. Very close to her. Her name is Angelina. Through circumstances, she and Shoji become a couple and have a baby. And that baby is Eleanor. And also, at this point in their life, the first Francine automaton appears and decides, like, she wants to learn what it means to be human, to learn how, to smile and everything. And they actually, after some discussion, take her in. And Guy also joins the party and everything. And they kind of become this makeshift family, which is, a theme in this show. Like, it's Masaru, Narumi, and Shirogane in the beginning, or Eleanor in the beginning, and then we learn about this makeshift family in the background. And this is probably just, this part, not what comes after it, but this part was I really kind of liked this. I mean...
Yeah, me too, actually. I thought it had a little bit more heart to it.
It came at a very weird time and was forced in there super badly. But the story itself, how Choji and Angelina came together, and Eleanor's background story, basically, her origin, was really strong. We also get to spend more time with Guy and learn that he was kind of cold in the beginning. I mean, he was snarky and fun in that way, like, this kind of snobbish Dick, who also was very capable and everything, so he was a fun character from the beginning. But here we, learn his background story and what really makes him tick and everything. That's also really cool. Like I said, one of the only well-developed characters in the show. And he has a very cool scene, and Automaton Francine also gets redeemed in this and has a very cool Terminator 2 moment where she saves Eleanor's life, but also gets kind of dissolved into her through Aqua Vitae and becomes part of her, which is apparently when Narumi learned about that, he got super angry because he thought, then she's just the same person as that automaton Eleanor is, and now I have to hate her, whatever, which is dumb. So the whole background story of those characters is really cool and emotional and well-framed and kind of rushed, but not as much as other stuff in the show. And I really liked it. I thought that was one of the strongest moments in the show. I thought Angelina was a really cool character, very sympathetic. And I mean, women in anime often are reduced to, hey, I am kind of weak, but now that I've become a mother, I have this unfound power, and I'm super strong and blah and stuff like that. And that was my destiny, which is a bit, I don't know,
contrived,
narrow-minded and contrived. It's like, okay, you could have gone somewhere else with this character, but still, Angelina is a good character. Like I said, very sympathetic, and probably some of the strongest emotional scenes are in that mini arc. And I would have liked maybe, if they put that at a different point in the show and maybe woven it in there more elegantly than have this weird forced flashback that they give to Masaru by letting him drink of some of Shoji's blood, which is super weird in itself. But so that happens. And then we learned that Sadayoshi, I don't know if I think he had a different name at that point.
I think was that when he was still Dean Maester?
Dean Maester, right. which was a Shirogane that came into their lives as well. And yeah, then later we learn it was basically adopted by Shoji and by Angelina as their son, kinda. So that's why Shoji is Masaru's grandfather, even though they're not blood related, really. But yeah, Dean Meister basically became Sadayoshi Saiga and became rich and everything. Then the flashback ends, and everyone is still convinced that Masaru is the bad guy, is Sadayoshi at this point. We still don't know why everyone is mad at Sadayoshi. But we'll learn momentarily. But first, the biggest, dumbest twist in this show. Because some of the guys in that whole communion there, where everyone is like judging over Masaru, just gets up.
It's a no-name character. Some fuckhead named Daiki.
Yeah.
He just comes out of nowhere and says, by the way, I was Faceless, who was also Sadayoshi, who was also Dean Meister, who was also fuck you.
Yep.
Fuck you. That was the point. That was the point where I dropped the show and I didn't look back, because if he could be literally anyone, why bother with all these other characters? Just dump the pretense and just have him be himself and say, oh, I could be fucking anyone at any point. I win the game.
Yeah. They obviously wanted to, make this a mystery box and like, what is really happening? Who is the bad guy here? What happened to all these characters? Well, as it turns out, Jin, the asshole who kicked all of this into motion, like one of the two brothers, got reincarnated over and over again. I think he managed to do that by dissolving himself in a well filled with the, immortal elixir, that aqua vitae thing. And, then have some kid drink from it. And that's how that kid inherited his memories and everything and basically became him. And he did that over the years and became several different people. And his newest incarnation is Faceless, which was a character that got introduced, that I mentioned earlier, was introduced to us in that arc where they fight, where Narumi and some of the other Shirogane fight the automata from the Midnight Circus. And, so back then, it was like, what is it with that character? Like, fucking meet him, and he's this weird clownish dude who's also the head of the organization, and then we're supposed to care about his sad backup story and everything. Turns out that backup story was fucking complete bullshit, and he was just, playing everyone for a fool, and that scene didn't mean anything. So that would have hit harder if we cared about this version of him, and him revealing himself to be still alive and be actually the main bad guy of the show would have felt like a real betrayal. It was like, what? Holy shit, fuck, I cared for your backstory, and I cared for your sacrifice and everything, but you're actually an asshole, fuck! I feel so betrayed, but since we only met him, like, 2 minutes before he dies, it's like, okay, I guess, fine.
For me, it was a literally who cares.
Yeah, who gives a shit? Which is like a red line throughout the show. And as it turns out, like I said, he's a reincarnation. And Shoji found out at some point and killed him, and that's how Masaru became an orphan and everything. Let me just frame this correctly. At first, when they introduce Sadayoshi and introduce his background, and we still don't know that he is faceless and he can reincarnate himself, I'm like, okay, each of the two major long-running conflicts in the show, which I thought was, Jin creating like the automatas and everything, and the Zonophile and everything, Jin wanting Francine for himself, Sadayoshi wanting Angelina for himself, which I haven't even mentioned it. That is given as the explanation for why he does the whole shit and turns against Shoji and everything in the story. He wanted Francine for himself, but Shoji took her from him. And I was like, okay, each of the two major long-running conflicts in the show is set into motion by some guy being mad at some other guy for stealing his woman, quote-unquote, which is super lazy and insulting in terms of, plot, character motivation, everything. Like, do the same shit twice. It's demeaning to women as well. And it's really the only motivation for the major villains at this point in the story, where I didn't know yet, right, how dumb it would get. Like, they don't have this tragic background or lefty ambitions or something like that. They just feel betrayed because they thought they were entitled to getting laid, which is super lame. And then it turns out, no, it's not two different characters, it's the same character. The whole plot of Karakuri is about a dude not being able to get over his ex. I fucking can't. Like, he tries to land with 3 different versions of her. Like, who look the same, are somewhat a reincarnated version of the original Francine in one way or another. Because Angelina also has the memory through the Aqua Vitae of original Francine, if I'm not mistaken, later Eleonore as well. And through, like, 3 different versions of her, and later Faceless, of course, that's his main motivation. He wants to get with Eleonore, because, again, she is kind of Francine, so that's his motivation. Again, that's what he wants, and he always fails. And I'm like, just move on! Fucking move on, man! She's just not into you! When will you fucking learn? Holy shit! This is like the dumbest, most contrived bullshit, lazy fucking plot setup for a villain, for a whole fucking show, for all the major plot points and conflicts in the show I've ever seen. This is so fucking dumb. And at this point, I was like, holy shit. At this point, I kind of was into it. I was like, this is so dumb. This is so stupid. This is my kind of stupid. Like, how do you even come up with this bullshit? This is so stupid. Like I mentioned before, there are some good, heartfelt moments in the story. Like, the whole Shoji Angelina stuff is good. It's just, at this point, overshadowed by all this fucking garbage pile of nonsense. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this is where the show was going. And it does. And from this point on, it's basically just all of our characters against Faceless, who fucks off into, like, first a giant as Zeppelin, and then to a castle, and then shoots himself up into space. No, really.
Of course.
To a space station. He was intending to go there with Eleonore, to be alone with her, because of course then she would love him. He has like this super contrived plan. Oh my god, this is the best thing. So, the reason he wanted to download himself into Masaru is, get this, his fucking master plan.
Oh no, I think I know. But...
I spoiled you on this, but this is so fucking amazing. So, of course, Eleonore hates him at this point, and he's aware of that, and his master plan is to make Eleonore hate him even more in his, like, faceless body. And then download himself into Masaru's body to use Masaru to destroy his old faceless body. Which Eleonore, of course, will love him for then, because she thinks, this is Masaru. Or does she? Because even Faceless knows that she's probably not so dumb to not recognize immediately that he is not Masaru, but is Faceless in disguise. And even though he already knows and admits this, like that she will probably realize it and that it's the downloaded version of him in Masaru's body, he believes her hatred for his old self will be so strong that it will override the truth and they can be happy together as a lovey-dovey destined couple on a space station. And I'm like, holy shit, this is this is such a fucking wow. This is like the Galaxy Brain Award goes to Sir Faceless. Congratulations, everybody. Applaud. Applaud. Fantastic. I've not seen such a contrived villain's plan since not even a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Holy fucking shit. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, ever seen. This is so... wow. I want to know if that is actually what happens in the manga, because then this story is beyond saving, even if you put all the additional character content in there and story content in there, because this is so fucking, this is the most convoluted, contrived bullshit. Wow, I've never, even for anime standards, which can get pretty stupid at times, this is a new high, new low, I guess, wherever you're coming from, but wow. So yeah, he intends to shoot himself and Eleanor up with a rocket, but, you know, Masaru rescues her and shit like that. And yeah, he gets sent up to space station by himself and then decides, yeah, well, fuck it all. I hate humanity, so let's kill all of you. And basically just sends the Zonophar disease into overdrive. And everyone is kind of close to dying. And then they, the Shirogane try basically pull together all the forces that are left and mount one last attack. Send a fucking space shuttle to space, like first transport the space shuttle with a train to the liftoff station and then send it to space, send Narumi to space actually, and who is supposed to be faceless. And that's what happens for the rest of the show. And that would be kind of okay. Only problem is, at this point, Narumi becomes a total dick. I mean, that was already like teased when he had that weird brief encounter, but at that point we couldn't really make sense of with Eleanor, but we couldn't really make sense of it at that point. And yeah, then it turns out, like I said, like I already elaborated on, he holds her responsible because he thinks she's the full reincarnation of Francine, and she thinks, well, that's that bad automata who made all those people sick. He basically, this is not a joke, he blames her for the way Faceless acted, because she's like, well, he wouldn't have done all that shit if it wasn't for you, if he wasn't after you. And I'm like, wow, that's some grade A victim blaming here, you fucking piece of shit. Like, that's not her fault at all. She isn't even Francine. She's just a fucking someone who inherited part of her memories, maybe, but she's a completely different character. And he's like, no, you're like, this is your fault because Faceless loves you and he does all this, hurts all these people because you exist. So I need to be mad at you. And
God
like,
damn.
What the fuck? So, what are you doing? Don't ruin one of the best characters in this show who was fucking badass in the beginning and sympathetic and great and inspiration to Masaru and everything. And then you fucking do this bad turnaround and turn into a completely annoying asshole. And it's like, ugh. And every time they tap into, they're like, at the Shirogane headquarters, like, oh, let's look at Eleanor's memories. If she really, has too much of Francine in her or whatever. And every time they do that twice. Every time he's like, I don't need to see that, and just leaves the fucking room. And I'm like, what the fuck? You fucking idiot! What are you doing?
But no!
No! He's just like, I don't care. I don't care about the truth. And like, yeah, fuck off. Fuck this show.
This detail that is incredibly plot relevant and could change my character, hopefully for the better. Nah, I don't care.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so dumb. And the only guy really standing for her at this point is Sky and through this old guy who's coordinating the whole thing. And everyone else is against her. And like I said, Guy's a cool person. In this part of the arc, even more so. He quickly became my favorite character. And the way he exits the story is also one of the most potent scenes, like going down like a badass, and at this point having become this super sympathetic character with a great arc and everything. And it's like, yeah, finally, this is sad and everything, and I'm sad he has to go, but we finally had a good character arc in this show. Thank God. So yeah, but Narumi is being total ass. His weird wannabe girlfriend Mingxia, one of the characters who got the short stick in terms of what was cut of character content from the manga, apparently, because she got quickly introduced when Narumi travels to his old teacher in China, which we also only briefly introduced to, and then she joins the battle against the Midnight Circus and everything. But she is barely a character. She's barely in this. And she also is super mad, but also is the reason why Narumi is super mad at Eleanor, who is like the sweetest, just nicest person. Just everyone being prejudiced against her because she looks like Francine. And fuck all of this shit. Like, fuck all of these dumbass characters. I hate them all at this point. This show was a roller coaster for me. Like, in the beginning, I really loved it. Then I was disappointed by it. Then I laughed at its over-the-top bullshit and ridiculous plot developments. And then I started hating it. Like, genuinely despising where it was going.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that describes it pretty succinctly for me, too.
I mean, you got only to the point with the dumb plot bullshit. You didn't even get to the bad bad character stuff where like they ruin some of the initially good characters in the show. Where it's like,
and you were telling me about that, and I was like, I am glad I dropped this.
You can be. And yeah, it's just for the sake of this fucking bad, contrived, fake drama writing. And they keep the characters, like they keep some of the characters artificially apart to heighten the drama and frame it like as the super tragic thing, but it's really just fucking dumb. And like I said, contrived. There's no reason for them to be apart. Like at some point, Masaru is going through the train car, and two of Francine's old automatas, one of those 4 minion super automata guys who have survived, 2 of those, who are now dedicated to protect Eleanor because she looks like Francine and they want to make her smile. So they're the good guys now. And they stand in front of the door where she is alone with Narumi, who still hates her at this point. And Masaru is like overjoyed when he learns that Narumi is still alive, because he didn't know at this point. He was kind of separated from the story for like the last couple of episodes, where he's like, he went to the castle and then disappeared for a while. And I think in the manga, he just goes on trains or shit like that. And in this, he just disappears and then reappears with a puppet and helps them fight faceless evil automata. And then he appears and learns that, hey, from the Nakamachi Circus people, yeah, Narumi is still alive. And he's like, holy shit, oh my god. My friend, the guy who inspired me, who helped me become a better person and everything, I finally get to see him again. Like, my father figure, whatever, my big brother. And he runs up to that door. And those automatas are in his way, and they're like, hey, do you really want to go in there? Eleanor is alone with the man she loves. Like, is that really the best thing if you would like blast in there and interrupt their moment? And I'm like, yes! Fuck, it would be the best thing that could happen, because Narumi is being a total asshole. And Masaru is the one who could tell him that, and that Narumi would fucking believe, and that he would stop being an asshole. This is the best thing that could happen right now. And of course, because of plot contrivances and everything, Masaru decides, yeah, I guess I'm not going in there right now. And like, fucking kill me. This is the worst thing. Oh my god, this is so stupid. It's the most contrived fake drama, postponing this plot developments, postponing character development, just fucking doing stupid stuff to force this contrived drama. It made me so mad. It made me so angry. And this is not even the end of it. They, get separated. A bunch of side characters, like the whole cast of the Nakamachi Circus dies in a fight against the automata, which could have been powerful emotional moments, like especially Vilma's death and everything. But alas, we only spent like 2 or 3 episodes with these characters at most. And only in the episodes they die in, we learn their backstories. So we don't really care. We don't give a shit if they die. That could have been really powerful, cool moments. Nope, we don't have any time. Let's move on. Fuck it. Fuck these characters. Who gives a shit? And then Narumi is supposed to go into space, but the rest of the army of faceless automata attacks, and he decides to fight them. And then this awesome scene happens where Masaru arrives in the nick of time, and they fight back to back, like their backs against each other, and fight off this plethora of fucking automatas and enemies, and it's great and it's cool, and it's like, yeah, fuck, finally they're reunited. Oh my god, this took way too long. Why did that have to take so long? Why did you do that to me, show? And then they killed them all, and they stand on the corpses of the automatas, and Narumi is turning around. It's like, because he couldn't recognize who was behind him. It's like, I just can't face forward because, I'm attacked constantly, but there's a strong guy behind me, and he's controlling a puppet and everything, apparently. And then they beat them all in this really amazing scene, staged super well, really iconic imagery and everything. And Narumi turns around and is like, hey, we beat them all, and BAM! Masaru takes a fucking camera and flashes Narumi in the eyes with the flash of the camera so that his retinas get burned, so that he doesn't recognize that it's Masaru standing there.
What?
So their reunion is interrupted again. And he explains he has, starting from like the last third of this, he has like this minion that Sadayoshi created, that was supposed to be a guide for his new body, whatever, Guripon, which is this weird griffin creature. And he has him tell Narumi that his name is Chimney Sweep or whatever, and he's a strong Shirogane, and he's gonna go up to the space station and defeat Faceless instead of Narumi. So Narumi can stay with Eleanor, okay? So he does that, and Narumi, of course, at this point doesn't know that it was Masaru who, saved him or helped him. So what could have been this really emotional, great scene between those two, finally reuniting, Masaru saying, go to fucking Eleanor, you stupid piece of shit, you dumb asshole, you treated her like trash. Don't fucking do that. You two love each other. Go and help her. And it doesn't happen. Masaru just goes up into space, and Narumi decides that he apparently now loves Eleanor on his own, now loves Eleanor again. And then he helps her, and, they kiss, and she got put into a bride's outfit by one of the automatas who also fell for her and wanted to make her his and shit like that. Everyone wants to make Francine/Eleanor his. It's really dumb. And then Narumi, realizes that he loves her again, and they hug and kiss and everything is fine again, which was not earned at all. And he never apologizes, by the way, for treating her like a piece of shit. Never. That is never shown. Never does he say, I'm sorry, anything like that. It's like, no, I realized I love you. And that's it. And she always loved him. And she's not like, hey, how about apologizing, you asshole, for treating me like garbage for the last 4 episodes or something? And we never get to see the reunion between Narumi and Masaru, by the way. It's just one small scene in the mission observation room and Narumi going, Masaru was still alive? Because why would we want a cathartic moment of 2 main characters who have been kept apart for 2/3 of the series finally meeting each other again? Jesus fucking Christ. And all we have left is Masaru traveling to the space station and fighting Jin/Dean/Sadayoshi/Faceless, who at this point has created a younger body for himself again and looks like Jin again. And then you think, this is going to be this epic final fight because Masaru has become a really cool, a really good puppeteer in its own right. And also, which I didn't mention before, he also learned how to fucking dismantle automatas just with a fucking multi-tool. Just fucking goes to town on them and they just fall apart and holy shit, this kid is awesome. And yeah, then that doesn't really they have a short skirmish. Jin, by the way, created a bunch of Francine dolls again. But Masaru didn't know it, but he had a stowaway on the space shuttle, which is one of the automata that Jin created in the last third of the show, which is this weird little girl automata that apparently is in love with him. And then says to him hey, I love you, but this other guy said that you only love me as a tool. And he's like, yeah, I love you. And then, of course, turns on her and is like, but only as a tool. Haha! And then dismantles her, but not correctly. And she stabs him. And that's it. Kind of. He doesn't die immediately. Because, as I've learned at this point, the show always can make it worse. And becomes friendly with Masaru. And they stop the space station from crashing into into landmass or whatever, and instead make it crash into the ocean. And Jin/Faceless tells Masaru there's actually an escape shuttle, and so Masaru can escape. And he also tells him how to destroy the Zonova virus, which is Eleanor has to sing the lullaby that Francine always sang, because that's the code that reprograms the fucking nanomachines to not, transmit the virus, but actually heal the people who are inflicted by it.
Jesus Christ.
Which, alright, it's dumb. That's okay, but still, it would have worked, I guess, if it weren't for the fact that about 5 episodes ago, Eleanor randomly sang that exact song in the midst of children inflicted by that fucking disease, and it did jack shit. So I have to assume that the writers just forgot about that scene? Possibly? Probably? Just what the fuck, man? What is the show? What is the writing on the show? How? How is this so bad? Like, holy shit. But yeah, everyone gets cured. They basically blast her fucking lullaby all over the earth with, I don't know, whatever, radio speakers. And the worst thing probably is that they frame a Jin or Faceless or whatever you want to call him as this tragic figure at this point. It's like, oh, he was just misunderstood. He was just alone, and that's why he acted that way. He just wanted someone to love him. This poor misunderstood soul. This poor misunderstood soul who created machines that killed millions of people, created a virus that killed millions of people, mostly children, by the way, that abducted and abused physically. There is a scene where we see that he fucking goes to town on original Francine with his fists. He punches her face in because he's like, why wouldn't you love me? Why won't you accept me? I chose you. I love you, blah. It's a super abusive piece of shit. So did that to her, reincarnated himself over the years so that he could continue, tried that shit with 2 other women, and then tried to kill all of humanity. But no, you gotta understand, please understand, he's just a misunderstood lonely guy. Fuck you! Fuck this show! Fuck it all! What the fucking shit? Oh my god. This was so fucking bad. This was so fucking bad. I don't even think I was so mad at Shield Hero. Probably because I pretty quickly realized that Shield Hero was a bad show, like from that first episode on. But Karakuri Circus had me pretty excited in the beginning, and then just fucking ruined it all, just messed it all up, like became the worst thing I've seen in ages. Like, just hopeless, and oh my god, so bad. It tries to do some things with family and not to like linger on the past and everything, but nothing of it works. Nothing at all, because it all just disappears, just gets swallowed by this bad plot, this nonsense, this horrible character development, if there's character development of all the characters behaving like erratic children, everyone being an asshole at some point and stupid and all this contrived garbage. It's horrible. It's so horrible. It's unbearable. I can't find words anymore. I'm out of words for this garbage. This show is an absolute mess, and I don't know why it had to come to this. The original creator, Kazuhiro Fujita, was even involved with the production. He handled the series composition together with Toshiki Inoue. So the same team that did the series composition and some of the scripts for ushio&tora. And like I said, that series turned out great. I don't know if they cut something from the manga for that as well, but also that had more episodes and maybe less volumes. I don't know. But that was a good show. That was a tight, good story with great characters, great character development, 2 fantastic main characters, some great side characters, a plot that worked, a villain that was fantastic. I loved everything about that show. So what the fuck happened here? Like, did the production committee decide that they only wanted 36 episodes? Why even bother then? Why wait 13 years to do an adaptation and then rush it to death and turn it into this fucking monstrous blob, this horrible mess? Like,
because money.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Like, you could have wrung much more money out of it if you made it like a multiple core series. Just put all the fucking manga material in there. Just give it time, let the characters breathe, let the story develop. I don't know if it gets as ridiculous and dumb in the manga when it comes to plot developments as it does in the anime later on. But it wouldn't have felt nearly as bad, I feel like, if we had spent more time with some of the important characters, with some of the side characters that had a lot of potential. Like all the crew from Karakuri Circus did have great potential. Guy is probably the best example that shows how good the show can get, because he's a real good character. He just gets drowned out by all this shit around him. Angelina is a great character. She's also not enough in this show, I guess. Narumi could have been a good character, but all that shit that happens at the end, which I assume is not in the manga, makes it, like, ruins him totally. Mingcha could be a good character. We barely know her. And later in the show, she also is mostly an asshole. Then Masaru is a great character. But again, for the sake of like stringing the plot along and not having characters meet and everything, for the sake of drama and stuff like that, and making this fake tragic tragic epic that it isn't. He kind of gets ruined by the end as well. Not really, he's still a cool character, but it's like you build him up so well, and then he also doesn't really get a satisfying ending to his arc. Like, nobody does, really. Nobody, except for Guy, maybe, gets a satisfying conclusion to their arc if they have a well-built-up arc at all. Like, nothing about this works. Everything is super rushed. Everything is feels like it's slapped together and improvised. And it's so bafflingly bad. Like, did Fujita think he could take out integral parts of his story and realize too late that he was in over his head? I don't know. I don't know how much influence he had on the anime, but I assume lead writing credit together with Inoue that he was responsible for this. And how can you do that to your own story? Like, I don't understand. Like, if this was like a production committee decision, they were like, no, we're only going to give you 36 episodes, make the best of it. I would have said, fuck it. Then I'm just going to leave it as a manga. Like, fuck it. Why ruin the integrity of the material for this? I don't understand the decision process behind this entire production. I do not understand it.
I mean, it's the same issue then as with Index 3. They tried to cram 50 plus episodes into 26 and it just didn't work. There seems to be this, and I get, production schedules are a thing, but there seems to be this, you have to do it in this many episodes or not at all.
Yeah.
And what you said about, the not at all option is a lot more appealing.
Yes. I mean, the manga still exists. You can read that.
Yeah.
But if you feel like this is a story that could become a great anime adaptation, try your darndest to make it work. And I'm not saying like you can't make changes. Like, I'm not a super big fan of original endings, but some of the adaptations that took liberties from the source materials are much richer for it. I think JoJo does that in some part as well. And the show that we're going to talk about in the next episode, they changed stuff from the manga. They tightened plot developments here and there. That they changed some stuff around to make it work better in anime form. That is not only valid, that is necessary. And,
it's like Jeff Thu always says, adapt or die.
Yeah, and it's very welcome if it's done well. But this is like the worst example of doing an adaptation. This is horrible. This is not how you do it. Like, trying to cram everything in, cut out integral character and story moments, and just fucking trying to squeeze it in this arbitrarily decided on episode count. And I don't know why it went that way. Why they didn't say like, okay, we're gonna do the first arc of this, like the circus arc, like the abduction arc and the circus arc in like 36 episodes, and we see how it fares. And if it doesn't work out, well, that shit. But then people can read the rest in the manga, and that happens often enough with anime adaptations. Or go for an original ending at that point. Like, do this manga story up to a point where it makes sense, and then create your own finale that makes sense, doesn't rush anything, and feels like a good ending point to it. I still think that the first Full Metal Alchemist did a pretty good job at that. Even though most people like Brotherhood more, but I think for an original ending anime, that series did a really good job. I think Trigun did a really good job of that as well. And if it would have been a success, which I'm pretty sure it would have if you had, adapted it correctly, at that point you're like, okay, then next season, let's do it. I don't know if the funding was a problem or whatever. I don't know what the problem was behind this trouble production, but it definitely didn't work out. It's horrible. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's entertaining at some point because it gets so dumb, and I'm always in the mood for dumb plot stuff. But after that, it gets really annoying and infuriating and just stupid in a way that makes you angry while watching it. And it feels so unsatisfying by the end. It's so disappointing. And yeah, I've been rambling long enough. And I know this was a very emotional and loud review or something like that, and probably just as fucking clusterfucked as the series was. But, I guess that fits then. But yeah, this is a frustrating, annoying, baffling, and mostly disappointing train wreck. And there's a train wreck at the end of the show again, so I guess that fits. Like, the fucking show is begins and ends with a train wreck, so...
It's like pottery. It's art.
It's art, yes. There's a badass scene where fucking Lisa rides a fucking unicorn, a giant-ass unicorn, and then uses that unicorn to impale a fucking centaur through his brain and stomp the guy who controls the centaur with the hooves of the unicorn. It's one of the most metal things ever put to screen, and they even managed to ruin that scene by not having established her character at all at this point. And it's like, how do you have these potentially amazing fucking scenes, like one of the coolest things I've ever seen in anime, and still ruin this in a way? How the fuck did you do that? There's so much cool weird stuff sprinkled in between that could have been the potential for something amazing. Like Narumin itself, he becomes like this hardcore martial arts version of Inspector Gadget, like with these body parts that have like this weird roller skates that come out of his fucking foot, and he just drives around with it and just slashes like with a fucking Guyver scythe at his arm and slashes just automata to pieces, and it's amazing. And I loved it. And there's a train with 2 giant drills in the front car and a giant clown face. It's also fantastic. There's a random automaton reading Was ist der Mensch by German psychiatrist and philosopher Karl Jaspers. Alright then. Like scenes like that. Just random crazy bullshit in this. That is fucking great. And you're like, what the fuck? Why is this in there? I don't know, but I love it. Like so much crazy cool garbage that it could have been amazing if it was paired with actually well-developed characters. That could have been like the weird brother-sister to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure season. Like the same kind of weird, over-the-top nonsense that I love so much about that franchise. And it works so well in that franchise. A lot of those things, like sprouts of that, are in this as well. And right from the get-go, I saw those and I was like, yeah, this could be really cool. I get JoJo vibes. This could be amazing. Like, this is super weird. This is super freaky. And these weird circus horror themes and everything. And yeah, and family and shit like that. Yeah, everything. Yeah, great potential here. And these super weird things sprinkled in between. I love it all. And then it just rides the train off the cliff so violently. And it's just so disappointing. It's a mess. And yeah, I don't even know what else to say. Just don't watch it. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. If you, for some reason, want to see it, it's on Amazon Prime. But really, just go read the manga if you can find it. I don't think there's an official English release for that yet. There are scanlations, which are up to volume 30 at this point, I think. So still ways to go. Maybe once that group has finished up the manga, I'll check it out to probably get a much better and more satisfying story out of that than what I got from the anime, which, like I said, is mostly disappointing. But yeah, John, you can be really glad that you dropped out only after, suffering 2/3 through this, which is not...
I am super glad.
Yeah, it's not... Things didn't even get really bad at that point. They only got worse. So, yeah, Karakuri Circus. A prime example of a bad anime adaptation. Steer clear unless there are strings on you as well.
So, switching gears, our last story kind of ended in space, and that's where our next story begins. So, in the far-flung future, maybe not so far, but humanity has been spacebound for only a short while, and those people who choose to live in space do so in massive colonies called sides. For a time, there is peace between Earth and its colonies, but one man, Xian Zoom Daikun, begins to spread the concept that the Earth is sacred, that humankind was always meant to leave it and find new life in space, and that humans have a solemn right to protect their home world. These ideals created a rift, and eventually those who lived in the colonies were viewed as being a lower standing than those who lived on Earth. Thus, Xian declared Munzo, Side 3, the colony that he and his family lived on at the time, to be independent of the Earth Federation as their own republic in the year Universal Century 0058. The year is now UC 0068, and Zeon has died suddenly and survived by his mistress Astraea and his children Casval and Artesia. Munso has now fallen under the hands of the fiendish Degin Zabi and his regime. In order to keep Casval and Artesia safe from Degin's designs, the children are taken into hiding by Jimba Rao, one of Zeon's family friends. Jimba leads the children to Andalusia, Spain, in the home of one Don Teabolo Mas, who gives Casval and Artesia the new names Eduardo and Sela, respectively, to keep their identities secret. All of these are events that set into motion the formation of the Autonomous Republic of Zeon and their crusade against the Earth Federation, as well as the rise of a man who would one day become known as the Red Comet. So, obviously, Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin is the story that takes place before the titular show, the 1979 series, as it were. And as we all know, the creator of Gundam itself is the man, the myth, the legend, the one who really shouldn't direct any more shows himself, Yoshiyuki Tomino. But thankfully, his involvement in Origin is mostly his name being on it, which is fine. The manga, which ran from June 2001 to June 2011, was authored by one Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. And he's done a lot of big giant robot Animu stuff too, stuff like Crusher Joe, Gundam character designs, Star Blazers, Riding the Brave. So Yasuhiko knows his way around mecha anime.
Apparently.
And he was aided in his directorial duties by one Takashi Imanishi, who's worked on stuff like Lasner, Votoms, Gundam 0083, MS Igloo, Double Zeta. He directed Yamato 2199. He did some work on City Hunter. So he's another guy who has been around the block in terms of both mecha anime and just, in general, the medium in general. But Gundam: The Origin, as you may have figured out from that summary of basically the first movie and a half, is the story of Char's rise to prominence in the 1 Year War. That is to say, 0079, when the original series takes place. And it's one hell of a deep dive into everything that happens prior to the series. And I would dare say all of this is a lot more interesting than 0079 itself, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's been a while since I've only seen the 3 compilation movies of the first Gundam series. I didn't watch the series proper. So
I mean, that is the way to watch it.
I guess you're missing some character development maybe in some parts. I don't know.
Yeah, but the original 0079 is also kind of weirdly meandering at points.
Yeah, so I've heard. Well, one thing that is for certain is that this show looks a lot better than the original Gundam
Oh my
series.
god, the production. Well, you watched the TV version. I watched the movies as they aired from 2015 to 2018.
That's also the reason why we're reviewing it now, because the TV version aired in the previous season, in spring season.
Yeah, it aired in spring of this year. But the production values on this series are fucking phenomenal. Yeah. It's got to be one of the best looking Gundam series of movies or TV. I mean, maybe pushing Unicorn aside, but I didn't care at all for Unicorn.
I liked Unicorn, but it was vice versa for that one, because I watched the movie versions for that, and you watched the TV version for that, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
as far as I've come to know, the TV version of Unicorn is utter garbage because they cut out way too much stuff or put some stuff in that didn't belong there in certain episodes. But overall, it was a very bad version of that story, and apparently made that thing make a lot less sense than it did in the movie versions. So,
I mean, maybe that's why I didn't like it, but I still thought Benager was a fucking loser.
well, yeah. I mean, that's a different discussion, but I think he was fine. But it was the connection between that and original Gundam and Char's counterattack, especially, was a bit weird, and with the villain full frontal and everything. Great name, by the way. But still, there was, in terms of production values, that was also amazing. And I think both these shows, besides the amazing production values, share is that they have a very nice old school feel to them in terms of character designs, in terms of even more so original, though, in my opinion. But Unicorn.
I mean, if you look at some of Imanishi's character designs, and then you look at this show, you see, there's a lot of the 80s, late 70s, early to mid 80s feel all throughout, and it captures it fucking amazingly.
Yeah. And not only in terms of looks of the show, just in terms of character designs themselves, but also in terms of how the show's directed, how the characters behave and everything. Like, Origin is very cartoony at times. Like, the Lucifer, the cat of Sailor, feels like straight out of a Disney thing in terms of how it's designed and how it behaves. And there's a lot of characters. There's some slapsticks moments here and there. A lot of that with Ranbaral and Dozal Zabi. Like, there are a lot of funny scenes in there that feel like old school, kind of funny anime stuff that you don't really see in shows today anymore. Just maybe in the new Lupin series, maybe that's where you would see that kind of how the characters act and everything, with also some funny character moments and slapstick sprinkled in between. But not really in one of the newer Gundam shows. Like, not at all. I don't remember anything like that being in Iron-Blooded Orphans or in fucking Double O or even in Unicorn. Like, that was dead-ass serious stuff. Like, super grim, war is bad, everything. I mean, that's in this too. But this is more, aside from the super grim revenge story and a lot of people dying, this feels, in certain parts, a lot more lighthearted. And, yeah, that really sprung out of me. It's like, hey, this has this nice old school cartoony anime feel to it. I really appreciated that.
It definitely feels old school Gundam, but not in a way that feels like old school Gundam does.
No, it's much tighter scripted. Like, just in terms how the story moves along, how the characters are scripted and everything, it all feels much more relatable, and I don't know, everyone kind of feels likable except for Char, maybe, because that's the character he is. He's this weird, psychopath deep down. I mean, his initial motivations are understandable, taking revenge on the Zabi family, and that, leads into the first Gundam series as well, which I think we are not aware of when we meet him the first time in the original Gundam. We don't. No,
definitely not.
We don't know that he is, like, what his intentions are and who he really is and everything. I don't think even the first time we met him, we know that he's the guy behind the mask. But yeah, in this, it's like pretty clear from the get-go, his father dies and everyone, it's like, the Zabi family is behind this. So yeah, his decision is, well, initially, I don't even know if it's like to take revenge on his father or anything, or it's just like taking revenge for the sake of it. Like besting the Zabis just because they wronged him in a way. Because that his inner workings are never really like detailed in the show or discussed or verbalized by him, really. He just like sets out on his way to work his way through the ranks and become the best pilot there is, and get more people on his side with his unbreakable charisma and everything and his skills, and basically rise the ranks through the Zeon military, and then become the best pilots and become the most trusted general in the Zeon army. And eventually, as we learn later in Gundam, in the original Gundam show, then destroy them and betray them all. And his side of the story in original Gundam. I mean, a big part of original Gundam story is also is Amuru's story, who's also in this.
For brief moments, yeah.
Yeah, brief moments. But Char's story is all about revenge, up to a certain point. I mean, it later becomes an idealized version because he deems himself, I think, also superior because of the whole Space Knights theory and everything. I think that's also, I don't know what what his motivation is at the point we get to Char's counterattack. And Gundam fans who listen to this will crucify me because they're the most rabid fan base out there. Because I probably mix up get a lot of his motivation and background wrong. But that's how he comes across in this, as this very driven, borderline psychopathic character, very cold, and every time he's on screen, every time he interacts with someone, you get the feeling that, no, everyone here is only a tool for him. Except for maybe Sayla or Asteria, his sister. That's probably the only person he genuinely cares for, except for himself. That's the only person he seems to have an emotional connection with. Everyone else is just a tool for him.
Oh, and their mother, Astraea, as well, except he kind of takes the news of her death a little bit differently than Sayla or Artesia, however you feel like referring to her on whatever day of the week it is.
Yeah, I mean, that could come down to him being this very, stone cold, very confident, very silent character type, brooding character type. He lets none of his emotions to the outside or show on his face or anything, or barely, only in key moments maybe. So maybe you're right. Maybe he genuinely cares for their mother as well. I would believe it. But, she is not together with them for a long time. And, once she exits the picture, that is all gone. And it's just cold-hearted revenge at that point. Which still has an appeal, don't get me wrong. The way when Char is the coolest when he does his shit, executes his plans, and just fucking goes to town on his enemies. Once he finally gets in his custom-made Zaku, that's the coolest shit you've probably seen in a while. Just in terms of how it's staged, the animation, this.
Hell yeah, man! He's the Red Comet. He's the baddest ass in the whole Earth sphere.
Yeah, and there's some really good CG in this show. Can you believe it?
Is.
Or in these movies, super fluid, really great models, all moves you would want to see a Gundam move in the show. Lots of character movement, and
even early on when they're showing, the research and development of mobile suits, when they're still in their prototype phase, their movements and their designs, and it just looks really just how you would expect it. I think it's been a while since we could say, CG was really solid. I mean, we sort of said there was some good CG in One Punch Man, but that show also had other issues, but
And I mean, there are two shows this season that have really good CG that we're going to talk about eventually. One of them in the next season reviews, and the one after that, I don't know how long it's going to run. But yeah, that it's getting better. It's the feeling I'm getting. Maybe that's just a fluke at this point.
Well, I mean, there is one show I'm watching now that it had a couple of seconds of CG that I was sort of ugh.
But in a good way, or
not in a good way.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But it was one of those things where they didn't linger on it long enough to be really bad. So
yeah, so we'll see. I mean, there's always hope that Japan finally gets it, and it seems at least some studios get it. But those are the studios. Well, at least one of them is the studios that was always good at this, and the other one, well, not so good with some other shows, but it's gotten better apparently. So we'll see how that fares. And it's not only the CG on the models and everything. It's just the way this is used for some great panning shots and everything. We get we get that very often actually, where you got the traditionally animated character in the center of the frame, and then you have the CG background, and they just used that to have this super fluid pan around shot around the character, like this most 180 degrees shot that pans around the character's face, but in super fluid way, where they concentrate all the traditional character drawing, like the people who do the traditional character animation, just on this one character motion, and everything around it is fluid CG, and it's just like this super well animated, fantastic looking thing, like just this fucking fantastic shot, this really super fluid camera motions that I rarely seen in anime. Where it's like, okay, this is a movie budget thing, and the way they did what they did here is super great. Like the focus is on this one thing, and that's where all the budget went in this one scene, and they compensated that by having like fluid CG backgrounds, and that meshes together super well in this movies or in this show. I noticed that several times, like the scene where Amuro comes into the room in his father's workspace, where he just walks into the room, and there's this slow pan around him from front to back. That looks really great. They do that twice, actually. Cheated a bit there because they used the same fucking room for it. Yeah, well, make it work. At least the interior was different in both scenes. But there's also some scenes. There is a hand-to-hand combat fight between Char, I think, and an assassin at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fantastic. Super short scene, but super great, with a very violent ending. But funny as well. And that's super one of those super fluid scenes. And we have definitely a scene where Char is in the cockpit of a Zaku and, just fucking pulls the levers and everything, and just the camera zooms around him. And it's zooms out. No, it's zoomed out, zooms in on his face, and zooms back out in this like super fluid motion while he is moving in the cockpit at the same time. And it's one of those moments where it's like, holy shit, anime. The things you are capable of. It never ceases to amaze me. It's really good stuff. Just in terms of if you want to showcase like how good anime can look, this is one of those shows / movies, movie series where it's like, hey, throw that up on your giant ass screen, fucking turn on your sound system, because the sound in this is also fantastic. And go to town and just show that shit off to people who think anime is cheap garbage, and show them like, yeah, you were cheap garbage.
Yeah, man. You mentioned sound, the music. I haven't watched this in a minute, but I recall the music in this being really good.
Yeah, fantastic.
It was composed by one Takayuki Hattori, who did a lot of work on, I guess, the live-action versions of Great Teacher Onizuka, but also a couple of the Godzilla movies, Nadesco, like goddamn near every Slayers movie, 2 of the Arc the Lad games, and most importantly, Intelligent Cube. If you've ever played that game on the PlayStation 1, you know that game has an amazing soundtrack, and it's just a simple puzzle game, and it has this sweeping, amazing orchestra going at any given time, and it's a thing of wonder. It's great. It's super good. It shouldn't have the music it does.
No, I love the score of this. This is super. It's epic. It's cool. It's moody whenever it needs to be. It's just perfect. It's perfect for every moment that it's used, and it's goofy sometimes. It's great stuff. It's really, really good, and it's definitely also a high point of the show, and gladly not the only high point. With our previous review. In terms of story, if you've seen the original Gundam, which I hope you have seen, because otherwise we've basically spoiled most of the show's plot for you at this point. Well, not really, but at least the character motivations of one of its central characters. This is, I feel like, I remembered enough of the old show to realize that this is a fucking fan service fest for original Gundam fans. Like, in terms of the characters that appear, the moments that get highlighted, that get elaborated on, how certain characters get elaborated on and extended, their stories, how they get extended. Like, some moments we have never seen before. Like, for example, we finally get to see the horror of the colony drop, like firsthand, close up, which has only, I don't know if it's only been referenced in the original show or if we've only seen it from the outside. But this time we see characters in the colony just dying, being suffocated. Yeah. And then we see like the devastation, that shit, like fucking world killing event that thing was, and what it did to the world when that happened. And it was basically just one dude being, going overboard. It was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen like it happened because the colony breaks apart in the atmosphere, and it wasn't supposed to be this large scale. It was supposed to only hit one spot, and instead it hit 3 and became basically a planet killer almost.
Yeah, I mean, the only other time they really show it in the original series was they were just like at this. I think in the first few episodes, as far as I recall, because I honestly did not watch all of the original series, but they referenced it and had like a quick scene of it crashing into, the Earth's surface, and that was kind of it. Like, oh, Zeon did this colony drop, and it was super bad, and it's like, yeah, we get that, but seeing it from this perspective was like,
yeah, it was harrowing.
Shit.
Yeah, it was gut-wrenching, it was disturbing, like, they really did a good job of showing you what kind of tragedy or monstrous act that was, even though it was not intended to be that bad. I mean, would still have been bad if it went according to plan, right? But, this was a prime example, and I feel like the original, that is also a theme of Gundam always. Like, war is bad from both sides of things, like most of the times. Like, you sometimes have clearly bad people, but often, it's just two sides fighting for what they think it's right, and, there are victims on both sides, and those who suffer the most are the normal people. Like that's what happens. And this is a prime example of that. Like, sides going to war, one side fighting for independence, which I feel like this show also does a pretty good job of showing, I think, that they maybe have a legit claim to. But, going overboard and then, doing shit because they are power hungry and everything. And, everyone having their own agenda in the Zabi family. That's what it is. And and then shit going worse than was planned, and everyone is suffering, and that's what war is like.
Well, you know what they say, war is hell.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Origin does a really good job on expanding on that scene, on that theme from the original show, like showing that in greater detail and showing us how things can escalate and get worse, even though they were not supposed to. But that's what happens in war, through one bad decision. And yeah, this is this is one of the key moments that happens. But also, yeah, in terms of characters, we see a lot of we learn more about Rambaral, and I don't know, was Hamon in the original show, or is she a new character? Because she's cool.
Yeah, I am like. Yeah, Hammond was in the original there.
Okay, I don't remember. That's the thing. It's been too long since I watched the movies. I remembered Rambal.
Or wait, hold on. Hammond was originally in Zeta Gundam, I believe.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I didn't watch Zeta. I only watched the original.
Yeah, I haven't watched Zeta or Double Zeta either. Maybe someday I'll watch the movies, but
I only watched the original, like the original movies, and then Char's counterattack. So I guess I didn't know I would be missing a lot of stuff in between, because Char apparently was a good guy in between in Zeta or stuff like that. I don't remember, but yeah, whatever. But okay, she was in Zeta, all right. Yeah, and then you get a bunch of main and side characters from the original show. You get like these what are they called? The Warrior 3 guys in the purple Zakus.
The Black Tri-Stars.
The Black Tri-Stars, yeah. Seriously, or like these pretty iconic characters. who have probably appeared in a bunch of Super Robot Wars games.
Oh, yes.
And they're fun, they're very cocky and very like, to war, rubber, and they're very annoyed with Char because he's so much better than all of them. But you mean they are also super capable, but he's better. And two of them recognize that and are like at some point, all right, whatever, he's better than us, got to deal with that. Just one of the guys doesn't really like to admit to that. But yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me was how much more sympathetic the Zabi family became for me in this. Like, not all of them.
I mean, for me especially, it was probably Dozel and Garma.
Yes, yeah, especially Dozel and Garma. I mean, Kycilia and Girin are still assholes.
Yeah, Kycilia maybe less so.
Yeah, Kycilia less so. Girin is like Space Hitler. Like he's the worst of the worst. He is only out to make like his family the strongest and build his legacy and maybe just step out of the shadow of his father because he goes against his wishes, and it's teased that he maybe, or Kycilia too, that both of them at some point will try to kill the head of the Zeon family. I forgot what his name was. Who is not really framed as a bad guy here, He also has, some intentions of being the guy behind the independence movement and everything, but he seems to be more level-headed than I remember him. And he's mostly a brilliant strategist and everything, and is interested more in, at some point, more in peace, a peace agreement between the colonies and the Federation, Earth Federation, though to Zeon's terms, of course, or on Zeon's terms, of course, but still peaceful way. He doesn't want stuff to escalate. Girin doesn't give a shit. He is the one that puts the colony drop into motion and everything. He just wants to take over the Earth Federation at some point, which becomes crystal clear. He, even at a point where they could all, okay, we have a super strong argument here, we are a force to be reckoned with. Now we can go into peace talks and make a good deal with the Earth Federation and stop this war. And he's like, no, this is not over. We're gonna keep going because we can win this. Actually, we can take over Earth and destroy the Earth Federation. So he's like just this power hungry dictator piece of shit. And Kycilia is kinda, she doesn't like him, but she's kinda on the same page as he is. Because she's also power hungry. But yeah, those two are kind of the only ones that are super unsympathetic in the Zabi family. The rest is like I said, the leader is kind of, at least you understand his motivation. You might not agree with it, but his methods are not too monstrous. And then you have Dozel, who is kind of like this super straightforward, kind of goofy, but kind of really nice guy in this. Like, I really liked him. I think up until the end, he has a turn at the end where he becomes an idiot. Well, he is an idiot from the get-go, but becomes, in terms of his reasoning, why he keeps on, why he follows the will of his brother and everything. It's understandable because he feels super conflicted about what happens with the colony drop and everything, and he feels responsible. And at some point, he just breaks together and into tears, and it's just like, oh God, all these people killed, all the children killed, and he feels super responsible, and then decides to protect himself by blaming the Earth Federation for escalating this. Like, he holds them responsible for it instead of his family, which makes sense, because it's easier, and he's a simple guy. But, you see where he's coming from. And in the beginning, he's a real sympathetic character. And his arc makes sense. And it's like, in the original show, I feel like he was only like this brute idiot. Or that's how he came across. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I feel like that's how he was characterized.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't, helped by the fact that, he was given Big Zam to just basically stomp around in.
Yeah. So,
Because I mean, come on.
yeah, true. But yeah, that's what he was in the original show. I think he's a much more interesting character in this. I really like him.
Yeah.
And then you have Garma, who is just, you feel sorry for the entire for the entirety of this show or these movies. You feel so sorry for him because he's just a fucking puppet. He's just like, he wants to impress his family. He wants to impress Char. He wants to be the best in the academy. He wants to live up to expectations. He tries to do everything right and everything that is expected from him. And he just he's played like a fiddle by Char. He plays into his cards so perfectly. He's manipulated by him from beginning to end. And he is just, and I can't even blame him because Char is such a fucking master at manipulation. And he is so fucking good at it. And yeah, like I said, he plays Garma like a fiddle. It works magnificently. And I felt really sorry for Garma because he seems to be also, in the beginning of the show, a bit cocky maybe and arrogant and everything because he comes from a powerful family and everything. And this is like this kind of stuck-up prince-ish person. But deep down, he's a good guy. He kind of wants to do what is right here. And he's kind of a soft person, and then just gets manipulated by Char into stuff that he probably wouldn't have done himself. I felt really sorry for that. I don't know how you felt about that.
I feel like first and foremost, he wants to be a cool guy.
Yeah, definitely. He wants to stand out.
And, at every opportunity he gets to do these things, just, whoops, Garma didn't get his chance. Uh-oh, look at what a dummy he is. And it's like, oh, man, I feel bad for you, kid. I'm sorry.
And I mean, he still, gets better and, drives himself forward, mostly to compete with Char, right? To live up to his expectations, because he's kind of like his ideal. That's what he's striving for. And that's what he's become for, not noticing that he's striving after a fucking psychopath. But yeah, but that also, also makes him part into a lot of the monstrous things that happens here and that escalate the war and everything, which he probably wouldn't have done it. And, if you know what happens to him in Gundam, in the original series, that only can lead to tragedy. So, yeah. And in the original series, again, came across more like a super douche, like this super arrogant guy. It was also kind of dumb and not seeing that he was manipulated. And in this, it's more like that. He is a bit cocky and he's a bit arrogant, but he still has a good heart somewhere there, and you can sympathize with him. And then you see Char just rolling in and, you will be my puppet, good boy. And yeah, like I said, it's fun seeing Char work, like being so good at what he does, which is combat and character manipulation. But still, it's like you feel sorry for the characters he takes advantage of. Like a lot of them.
Definitely.
I mean, his name is not Char originally, like we said, it's Casval. And there's an original Char, which is the son of a family they meet on one of the colonies. And the way he takes over the name of Char is, wow, that's it's one of the cold-hearted asshole moves I've ever seen. And the show kind of frames it in a funny way because the original Char is kind of like this whiny, pansy loser in a way. So it's kind of funny the way the way they frame his exit from the show. But it's still super dark. God damn it. I mean, he was not even alone on that ship, but holy shit. I mean, it's not directly Char doing that to him, right? But
it just sort of worked out that way.
Well, no, he made it work out that way, right? Because he noticed that he was followed and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, they got something planned for me. They know I'm Casval, I'm still alive, so how do I get out of this? He saves himself, right? It's not like he does that to do bad or to harm that person, but it's the easiest and most effective method to survive and to get out of this. And it's a very good scene to show that he doesn't give a shit about other people. Because he spent some time with Char, with the original Char at that point, and you could think, maybe they formed a connection or something. No, No.
Not at all.
Our Char will drop you like a hot potato as soon as you're not useful to him anymore, or as soon as it means him or you. So, yeah, be aware of that. Oh, man. Yeah, like I said, it's still fun to watch. It's still fun to see him do that shit. And, the show's lighthearted enough to not let it get too dark in that regard. There's some super dark moments in the show, like I said, with the colon drop and everything, but it can be fun as well when it revels in how good Char is at being the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this series was just so well framed and executed. It makes the one, I think, really big negative I want to take away from it is that it makes me yearn for a remake of the original series in this style.
Yeah, that's what I came away from it. Those are the thoughts I came away from it too with.
Because at the ending, we have, oh, this is where 0079 starts. When's the next episode? Oh, it's over?
Come on. I was surprised how perfectly it lines up with the beginning of original Gundam,
right?
Gundam 79. Like this is the Rogue One of Gundam. Like the ending, you could stop the ending and then start watching original Gundam, and it would fit together perfectly. Like just from one scene to the next, perfectly. Like not even a break. It wouldn't even feel like you're missing an episode or two or whatever. No, it ends here, and then you watch the first episode of original Gundam, and it connects. It's perfect. And like, holy shit, yeah. A remake of 79 with those production values, sign me up.
I mean, it's been at this point 40 years. 40 years, goddamn. Since the original series aired. So I feel like, we had the compilation movies, so I feel like...
Yeah, but those are not... Some parts are reanimated in those, but... Or was that in Zeta? I don't remember. But
probably in both.
Probably in both. But, that's still like reanimated in what, the 80s or something? And,
yeah.
And most of the stuff is still from the TV show. This can't even come close to compare to that. I'm not saying something about, the right now about the writing quality or anything like that, or plot structure, whatever about the show. But you must argue, you cannot argue against the fact that this, like, Gundam the Origin looks so much better than Gundam 79. Mm-hmm. Like in every regard, everything looks so much better. Everything about this production, like not even looking but sounding, all of it, it's so much better. And having a tightly written, rescripted version, tightened up version of Gundam 79 with those production qualities, I would love to see that. I would watch the shit out of that. And I can't believe they haven't done that yet. And if they're not doing this after having done the origin, I mean, it's not been too long since the movies were released, and now only the TV series. So maybe they'll do that. On the other hand, I don't know how much of a thumb Tomino has on that original series. How much, if he has to give his okay for a remake to happen. So maybe that is not a possibility unless he allows it.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like it would be the perfect 40th anniversary celebration.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Instead, the series we're getting this year is Build Divers Re-Rise. So,
I really hope they'll do that. I mean, we have a lot of series that got remakes, older series that got remakes over the years. I talked about one, in our previous review, Ushio&tora. Recently got a remake that already had an anime. Fucking
Dororo was a remake.
Had an old ass anime and got a remake, and it was great. And Hunter x Hunter got a series in the 90s, and then another series not that recently, a couple of years ago, but still a very recent remake. So Brotherhood, even Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, even sooner than that. So what is keeping them from doing one of the most popular franchises in anime of all time? Like, are they scared to fuck it up? I mean, I can understand that. Like I said, the fan base of Gundam is fucking rabid as hell. But I feel like people really liked Origin, didn't they? Like, I only heard positive feedback on that.
As far as I saw and heard, yeah.
Yeah. So why not give like a reimagining of the original 79 series to the same people who did this? I think that would turn out great.
Get on it, Sunrise.
I would like to see them try it. I mean, of course, it's a giant undertaking because that would probably have to be a lot more movies, just in terms of episode count and story length. But like
maybe, I don't know. I guess it remained to be seen, to be honest.
I mean, we had 7 movies for this?
6.
6. Okay, there was 7. Anyway, so okay, we had 6 movies, and they were each like 1 hour long. Is that correct?
I think some were closer to like an hour and a half.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, each episode of the TV series is exactly 25 minutes, and we got 12 or 13 episodes. So it didn't match up perfectly. Like, there's some stuff cut from the TV version. I noticed that. I compared like the first 2 episodes, first 2 or 3 episodes of the series, and the first episode of the movie, the first movie, which kind of end on the same note, like when Caswell and Sailor leave their original colony. There are some bits and pieces cut out, but they're only like small character moments. So you're not missing too much plot-wise, but, charming character bits that you might want to see. So I would say go for the movie versions. They are available not for streaming, I think, but they're available on Blu-ray, in the States at least.
The movies used to be on the Gundam Info YouTube channel. The other day, I was actually looking it up to see if they're still there. For some reason, they were taken down. But if you want to watch the movie versions on streaming, they're on Hulu.
Oh, okay.
The series is on Crunchyroll. I might have to give some thought to getting the Blu-rays, though, because this is a series I wouldn't mind having in my collection.
Yeah, me too. I think, especially since I've only watched the TV version at this point, so I kind of want to rewatch it to, watch the movie versions too, to see what else was cut out. There was a great scene in the first movie with Dorsal where he's trying to stop all the tanks from attacking. When Caswell and Sailor and Hamon try to escape to the spaceport, Dorsal stops the tanks attacking them, saying, "No, they're the kids of the Zeon kids are on there," and and it's this very fun scene, and that was apparently cut from the series. And there's some other small bits in here and there that didn't make it into the show that they cut for a time. And I assume, and I think the big opening scene where Char also fights in this giant, that is a tease for the giant battle that we have in the last quarter of the show, which is the Battle of Loom, which is stunning to look at in all regards. Holy shit! Also serves as a reminder of the strategic prowess of Zeon and how much of a power shift the development of the mobile suits of the Zaku's really was. Really liked how it put all of that into perspective. Because we kind of see only the after effects of that in the original 79, because Zeon is already this kind of indomitable force at that point until the Gundam enters the scene. And here we finally learn, hey, yeah, they were kind of Earth Federation Force was kind of more powerful, had the bigger armada and everything. But Professor Dr. Minovsky, who we finally meet, who was only mentioned in name, I think, in the guy who invented the Minovsky particles, which is the name. If you ever heard Gundam before, or watch a Gundam show before, you should be familiar with that name. At least if you watch a Universal Century show.
I forgot that.
Yeah, but we meet that guy. And, when he invented or helped Zeon realize the idea behind the mobile suit and the Zaku's and everything. And his ideas later get used for the Gundam. But yeah, when those Zaku's got invented and got added to, and basically Zeon got a new space force with those, an infantry force, that was a fucking enormous shift in power balance, in the power balance. And that's also a thing that Origin does realizes really well. Like, shows you the full effect of that in the Battle of Loom. I really like that. But yeah, aside from, a few character moments, there was not that much cut out, or at least it didn't feel like it. But it's still better watching the movie versions, because you're missing out on some neat stuff in here and there. Probably more fan service if you're a diehard Gundam fan. But even then, if you're like, okay, I don't have Hulu, only Crunchyroll, you can totally just watch the TV version. It's totally serviceable. It's totally fine. It's great even. And then maybe if you like that, you can, get the movies on Blu-ray or whatever, or watch them maybe if you can get around to getting Hulu or whatever. Just watch the movies again and see what you missed, what they took out. But it didn't feel like they took out that much substantial stuff. Otherwise, it would have been noticeable, I think, in the TV version. Apparently, it wasn't Unicorn. So, yeah. So, yeah, great, fantastic stuff either way. Either if you decide to watch the movies or the TV series, you can't go wrong with this. I think this in itself is a great, space opera, action, war story. And even more so if you've watched the original Gundam series or intend to watch the original Gundam series. This is a great introduction to that. Although I think it will be pretty difficult if you start with this and then move directly over into 79. The production, the difference in terms of production quality will be pretty jarring, I think.
Yeah.
And also, if you watch this on its own, just be aware that the story doesn't really have a satisfying ending because, it's only a prequel. It's the real story is happening after that. Like the conclusion to everyone's arcs, like the Sabi family arc, the Char's arc, and Amuro and his friends. All their arcs are going to be finished in all their stories are going to be finished in Gundam 79. So you're not going to get the whole story of these characters. You have to be aware of that. Like, it's a lot of fun, but it feels like it stops slap in the middle of where the story is going. So, yeah. You can't really watch one without the other. John and I had the advantage of having watched the old Gundam before this. But if you like this show a lot or these movies and are like, hey, okay, I want to see the rest of it. I don't even know. Is original 79 widely accessible?
I'm sure you could probably buy it on DVD, but as far as streaming, I don't think so.
Okay. I assume maybe it was somewhere on the special channel or something, like you said, the Gundam Info channel or stuff like that.
Maybe.
Maybe I don't know if it's back on Toonami or something, or I know it was at some point, right? But
that was ages ago.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll bring it back, but yeah, it's an old ass show. But yeah, there are probably Blu-rays or DVDs for that out there somewhere, and if not, there are fan subs definitely. You can always find fan subs of super popular show, and Gundam is one of the most popular shows out there. But yeah. Definitely recommend it. Even old ass Gundam, if even the production values don't hold up, it's still a cool mech show, and it's one of the most important works in anime, like without a doubt. Like so much stuff, so much anime stuff we like today wouldn't exist if Gundam didn't exist. And even if some of it, like I said, if some of its production doesn't hold up nowadays and looks super dated, doesn't mean that the story doesn't still work, which it mostly does. If I remember correctly, and the themes still ring true and everything. And yeah, I would say try to give it a watch if you watched Origin and like it. But yeah, definitely watch Origin. I think you won't regret it, even if it's the only Gundam thing you watch and it is open-ended in itself. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's a great show. John?
I thought it was super great too. I can't recommend this highly enough. I'm not a huge Universal Century guy, but I really enjoyed this.
I only got into Gundam with Seed and a lot of the Ultimate Universe stuff. Yeah, I know, not a great place to enter. Especially, considering Seed Destiny came after, which was much worse. And I watched both of those. Ugh. I mean, I liked Seed when I watched it, but yeah. But Seed Destiny was super garbage, holy shit. But I watched mostly non-Universal Century stuff. And the only thing Universal Century stuff I've watched is the original 3 movies and Char's Counterattack and Unicorn and now Origin. And it's cool. I don't know if I'll check out any more series from that timeline, and I don't even know what they're gonna do next in terms of Gundam. I mean, so far they've only in recent years, except for Iron-Blooded Orphans, they've only been doing the Build series. So I wonder what's gonna come next. Like, are we gonna get new Universal Century stuff? I feel like they've done that in movies. Like there was one thing that was set after Unicorn, I think. I forgot what it's called, but everyone hated the shit out of that.
I mean, they were supposed to be an adaptation of Hathaway's Flash, but I think that's not until next year.
Okay. So we'll see what they do. We won't give up our hope for a reimagined Gundam 79 series, like a remake by the team that did Origin, even although chances are maybe low. We don't know. But maybe it will happen. And that would be pretty kick-ass, I think, judging from what they gave to us with Origin. And that is a wrap on the 80th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for a review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnimeBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time. And please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
Prepare yourselves for gigantic revelations and monstrous battles.
As a monumental chapter in a truly titanic quest comes to a close.